We have a terrific lineup this evening, and members of our leadership team will introduce you to some of these plans. I'm so glad to introduce Marcia Callender next, our Associate Director for Child and Family Support, who will add more context to the complex layers of support that we will provide as we move into this next phase of hope, of resilience, and of healing together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was so powerful and so beautiful and so true that we are in this incredible phase. And unlike, this is my third parent orientation, and from the first one I went to afterwards, I said, you know, I felt like that line from The Wizard of Oz, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. Because there was something very different happening at Manny Cantor. And in the last 3 years, and especially as I come into this third year, it is never more evident. We have come through this summer, and it reminded me of a time long ago when I was a parent. My children are all grown now and pretty much on their own, doing beautifully. But it reminds me of when I was a parent when they were young, and my first son was getting ready to go into, I don't know, he was 4, so I guess he was getting ready to go into his 4th year class. And I had another child who was a couple years younger, and it somehow, I mistracked that it was the opening day of school the next day. And I hadn't gotten his haircut, and haircuts are very big in our culture. You gotta get your haircut for special occasions. The issue was that we had left our more ethnically diverse neighborhood in Prospect Heights in Brooklyn to a much less diverse neighborhood in the Brigadoon of the Bronx, better known as Riverdale. Only appears every other Sunday, beautiful manicured fields, but not a lot of diversity. So when you had to get your hair cut or get certain foods, you had to go down the hill to do this. Well, this was after a rough summer in our inner cities. There was a lot of tension, there were a lot of concerns, there were a lot of boiling up at that time, especially among our youth. And I didn't feel honestly comfortable being out late at night. So I quickly called the barber about 3 o'clock and said, hey, Rosie, can I come down and get Matthew's haircut? And he said, well, Marcia, you know, it's the first day of school. I'm booked until about 6:30. I thought for a minute, well, what's one day? But I said, no, he really needs to get his haircut. So I said, well, I'll go down. It'll be okay. We'll get home before it's too dark. We got down there. All was well. Things were moving fairly smoothly. When all of a sudden, the tone of this neighborhood gathering changed. A group of young men walked in, strong and wrong, proud and bold, loud, boisterous, and sort of took over the barbershop. I had a moment to think, should I leave? Should I come back another day? But Matthew really needed his haircut. So I sat there with him praying and playing, praying and playing. At one point, one of the young men plopped himself on the other side of Matthew. He was all dressed in all of his bravado and showmanship for his young age. And I noticed he was intently staring at Matthew through his dark glasses, which he didn't need because the sun had long been down. But he kept the stance up and he was looking, and as he was looking, he was gearing himself up for something. And all of a sudden he said to me, yo, man, what's wrong with him? Why does he look like that? What's wrong with that boy? So I thought for a minute, said another prayer, took a deep breath, and I looked at the young man and I smiled and I said, well, this is my son, Matthew. He has a rare illness called mucopolysaccharidosis, in other words, known as a Hurler syndrome. He has many things that are different about him. That's why he looks this way. He has a hydrocephalus. He has a curvature in his spine. He has a protruding abdomen. He's dwarfed. He will never reach his full stature. And I went on and explained a little more detail. But then I said to him, you know, but he's my little boy. And he's a wonderful little boy. And I love him dearly. And I continued playing and praying, playing and praying. The noise in the barbershop began to mute as this young man began to squirm, obviously, in his seat and sort of wrestle through his through his faux Vuitton outfit, and I noticed that he was sniffling and clearing his throat, and his whole demeanor began to sort of emerge into something different. He even wiped a tear underneath the dark glasses. And at one point he removed the glasses, sat up and said this time, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something?" Again, I looked and smiled and I said, "Sure, what would you like to tell me?" He said, "When I grow up, if I grow up to be a man, you know what I want to be when I grow up?" And I said, "What?" He said, "I want to be a doctor so I can help little guys like that. We got to be able to help little guys like that. It's just not right." At that point, I looked at these two little boys, these two children that mothers love and that hopes and dreams are about them and for them. And I thought to myself, what is America doing wrong? What have we not gotten right? What truths that we should have self-evident have fallen to the ground? With all that Matthew had, I knew there were many more children who had so much less due to disparities of health and poverty and all the things that go along with that. And here this young boy, no more than 14 or 15, knew his odds for making it to adulthood was slim to none. We've come out of such a summer. Boy, we've come out. I call it the summer that was. We were hit by a pandemic that no one expected to last as long and take so many lives and affect us so greatly. We saw hatred raised to our Asian brothers and sisters for false accusing or ownership of something they had nothing to do with. And then if that wasn't enough, we were reminded again that we still live in a country where we have to remind people over and over again, not that other lives don't matter, not that all lives matter, but we have to remind people that Black lives matter after the death of George Floyd. It had an impact on all of us. Whether you wanted to face it or turn away from it, it had an impact on us. Let me tell you what was happening at Manny Cantor during that summertime. After the Zoom classes were closed and after the Story Park Magic was posted, Manny Cantor got together. The custodians, the CEOs, the admin, the cooks, the facilities guys, the art folks, the seniors, the 2Gen program, the youth program, the teachers. We all got together and we hit hard discussions about how we were feeling, how this was impacting us, what we were afraid of, what we were angry at, and all the things, how this was affecting us. But we didn't stop there. The dialogues kept going until they broke down into smaller dialogues. We could really concentrate on what we had to do. All we knew that we couldn't do, all we knew that we couldn't control, all that we knew we had no power over. The one thing that we did know, that one day we would be having this night again. We would be having parent orientation to welcome new children into the program tomorrow, and we had to be ready. Manny Cantor, you might think, is that beautiful, I don't know, peach pink building with the glass doors. Well, glass doors can be broken and bricks can be tumbled down. We are Manny Cantor. The people, the teachers, the admin, all the people that greet and love your children. So we are Manny Cantor. And as Manny Cantor, we made an intentional commitment this summer that we had to make sure that when those doors opened, that we were ready for anything and everyone. And part of that was starting an anti-bias, anti-racist discussion so that we would remind ourselves of how great and the potential of our children are, and make sure that when they walk through those beautiful glass doors, that they feel nurtured, their parents feel empowered, and our community is stronger than it ever was. These are times that we couldn't fathom. But I always say that sometimes when you send out invitations to a great party, you do all the work and you make all the preparation, you buy all the food, you put up decorations, you prepare for everything, you send out all the beautiful invitations. But somehow the people who show up are the people who are called at this particular point in time to be here. So it is no mistake that we are here in this time. There's no mistake that as you come in these doors tomorrow, you will see a program that is continuously evolving, not haphazardly, but addressing the needs, addressing the wants and the hopes and dreams of each and every one of the children, of each and every one of the families, of each and every one of our staff, because we have a bigger job to do. We have a job to make sure that the hope, that the dreams and the truths that we hold self-evident are truly maintained. These are the times to do that, because we cannot afford to lose any more people. We cannot afford to forget anyone at this time. Every now and then when I tell that story of that young boy, I hope someday that I'll be running through the airport, or I'll be shopping at a store. I'll be sitting down having a wonderful cup of tea. And a young man will approach me and say, you know, miss, you look very familiar. I think I met you many years ago in a barbershop. You had a son who had mucopolysaccharidosis, Hurler syndrome. He had a kyphosis, he had hypocephaly. He was dwarfed, but he was a beautiful little boy. And I remember you singing to him. I remember you singing to him. And I remember you telling me to keep my dream alive and to keep doing what I know I need to do. I made some changes after that. I got my act together, started listening to my parents a little more. I made sure I studied and went back to school and did the right thing so I could make a difference in the world. That's part of why I'm here, because I believe so much in the embracing the possibilities of all children, to make sure that all children have a right to the same possibilities and embrace all of that. And the work I do has surely been started because of my son Matthew, but hasn't stopped there. So it's a pleasure as we start this new year to keep in mind that we are all in this together. And that's a wonderful place to be. And I look forward to getting to know you all, to meeting you all, and to working with you, and especially getting to know your children. That's the best part of my day. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for taking that leap of faith. And thank you for being here in this most incredible time. Have a good evening and see you tomorrow.